name it, but that was pretty funny.
I got you.
Because I liked it. They just like lined up for that. Just sat there and was like, okay. Sound does a cookie bake? Nom 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 nom. We can defuse that. What are we doing? Oh wait, no, we're planting. Never mind.
There.
Oh my god. No. Already clip it. Don't do it.
I should have so gotten that. Why didn't I not get that? Oh, why am I
Do you
not?
have any other guns?
Yep. I was just trying not to
Did you
use.
just skedaddle them?
I actually did!
No, revive the good one first. Yeah, so revive Connor.
Like, shove it in my face like this?
Yeah. Close your eyes. Stop. Aren't you glad you closed your eyes?
Oh damn. Oh, whoa. Wow. Wow. Why did I do that? Please help me. Jesus Christ, please help me. Give me cookies? No, no, no. I'm sorry, I can't give you my cookies. You'll have to harass someone else for cookies. Sorry, no, I can't give you my cookies. Oh my lord, this woman is like just sucking it out of me, isn't she? Jeez.
Got a clear view, clear way of getting up. A massive, great big fucking ladder.
Oh god, I fell down. I fell down the ladder. They wouldn't let me get back on the ladder. I'm like, run, and they're like, Hoya! Hoya!
Okay.
They're like,
I don't know how to reply to any of that.
they're fucking everywhere. I'll give you treatment at the witch's house. Okay. Oh my god, we're carrying him home. Oh my heart. Guys. Oh. We're carrying him.
Exactly one of those.
Oh yeah, they go like.
What the fuck was that?
That's the sound the dinosaurs make. This is as terrible as the smell of spotted shit take mushrooms. I don't think that's how you meant to say that word, but anyway. Up ahead is the engine room. Okay. Chit chat. Please save any inquiries regarding souvenirs. Shiitake. Shiitake? Did I say? Unless this is not sugar and this is salt. It says salt.
You can taste it. You can't. It doesn't have a smell. Babe. Oh yeah, that's no.
Midnight gaming.
Why would you? One of those Chihuahua puppy dogs that has a lot of like a little butt.
No, there's none of those. Chihuahuas don't have bite. They just bark out the window at things that are much larger than them.
Spike down B. Feeling fed. One down. One enemy remaining. Flawless.
They really just lined up there. Honestly, can someone just like press the clip button? I don't care if you actually name it, but that was pretty funny.
I got you.
Because I liked it. They just like lined up for that. Just sat there and was like, okay. Sound does a cookie bake? Nom 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 nom. We can defuse that. What are we doing? Oh wait, no, we're planting. Never mind.
There.
Oh my god. No. Nobody clip it. Don't do it.
I should have so gotten that. Why didn't I not get
Oh, I got it. I got it. Hello, beanies. How's everybody doing? We're going to play some Animal Crossing. And then we're going to do some Final Fantasy dungeons and quests that I need to do. Hope everybody's having a good day so far. Let me just... Okay, good. My Discord went out. That's good. My new TikTok just went out, so if you guys want to watch that, feel free. It's just a silly one today. Just a silly one. Oh. Oh no. No. What? I heard myself. I don't want to hear myself. No. Alright, let's get this game rolling. Oops, this one. And those of you on Rooney, I have a new channel point redemption. You can change what outfit I am wearing. I'll just quickly show you the different outfits so you can see. So I've got this outfit, obviously. I have this blue one, Law design, lovely Law. And then this cookie one. And a purple one. The unicorn hat. Sorry. My fever's been kicking my ass lately. Alright. Yes, those are the different channel point redeems we have, or the different outfits we have. And each one has its own hat, which is my most favourite thing about it. Alright, let's go see how our island's doing. I did play a little bit last night before bed because I wanted to see if there was anything I could do. Hello, Mr. Capitalist Tom Nook. A little loud there, or it was a bit loud, that's okay. Hello, Tom Nook. Are we doing an island-wide broadcast full of island updates, ongoings, and such? I go over some things that are very important to island life, so lend me your island ears for a short time. Ooh. Cookieland Airport is now open for business! Let's go! Online or local communication to fly to other islands for a visit. The airport counter now offers postal services. Wow. Oh. Yay, Blathers will be joining us! This means I can pick up all of the fish off the floor and bring it to him. Beautiful. I'll show you guys how much fish I've caught in a second. Loading screens. Love a good loading screen. Let's see, this is all the fish I've caught. I've just been waiting for Blathers to arrive. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out here. And if it go, oh, my house is a house now. I didn't realize that at first. We now have a house instead of a tent, so that's awesome. Woohoo! Decorating mode, open storage. Awesome. And then, yes, I have a bug. Or 2 bugs. I think that's a bug as well. Yeah. 3 bugs. And another fish in here. We need to rearrange our furniture, though, for real. Let's, do that, shall we? Oh, that flips it. Okay. Oh, no, I've gone out of it now. I always get so confused with the Nintendo buttons. Okay, there we go. Oh, there's another fish thingy there as well. What's another one? That umbrella by the door. And a little cardboard box. I've got to go around and pick up all of my insects and stuff. And put things away in my storage. How do I do that? Get that in storage. I'll just put all this in storage for now. I can carry all my fish. And my bugs. I don't know how many I can give him though at first, to be fair. These are my spare shoes as well. I made myself shoes. Oops. The tools at the front. Here we go. Alright. Yep. Give me all me little bugs and stuff. Okay. We gotta go outside and get those ones as well. Hello, Quizzy. The kitty cat's come to say hello. I've got mail. I can't even look at my mail right now. Oh, Mom sent me a present. What did Mom send me? Oh, Happy Home Academy. Here. All the mail. Ooh, a wooden low table recipe. Okay, what else do we got? And oh, some pears. Nice. Alright, let's pick up all these fish. It's raining today, guys. I wonder if that's actually the kind of the weather here or not. I don't feel like it's raining outside though. Alright, let's go see Blathers. We've got lots of stuff for him. Blathers, I'm here. Oh, I've got some Nook Miles to accept first quickly. Dream house. Woo! Grab my Nook Miles. Hello, Blathers. Oh, I love your little tent you got going there, buddy. Ooh. Pleasure to meet you. My name is Blathers. Hello, Blathers. I am ZiCookiie. Yes, that's me. I'm determined to open a museum henceforth, dwell on this island amongst you. I can bring her here. And then I'm told display case with something to display that is another matter, which is where you come in. Let me explain. You see, it's not only insects and bugs, but fossils too. Oh, he's gonna teach me how to make a stick, I think, to get over to the other side of the island. Yeah, a vaulting pole, exactly. Oh, and a shovel, yes! Thank you so much, Blathers. I've been waiting for this shovel. Can I do more than one? Because I have like so much, dude. A squid, yes. No, I don't want to know about... Sorry, I just want to give you stuff. I've got something else. I've got two the same. I thought I did, but I wasn't sure. Alright, we'll sell that in a minute. No, I just want to give you things. Where's the button to just give stuff and not have to talk all this talking? Yeah, I've got lots of stuff to be donated, don't you worry. I've been stocking up, waiting for you to arrive. Wish you could choose more than one thing at a time and just be like, yeah. Because I have a lot to hand in. Oh, I didn't want... Oops. Okay, now I've got some facts. Yeah, it's so fascinating, thank you. Gonna be here for a hot minute, guys. Alright. I don't think I'm gonna quite have enough to unlock the museum straight away, but... Hey, yo, powers. No, no facts, just handing in. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean, Alright. Yeah, I do have more donations. Oh no, I didn't want the facts. Alright, two more to hand in, and then we're done handing things in for now. I love how the owl doesn't like bugs. No, thanks. Just take it. Okay, that's it. We need 5 more, okay. If it can obviously see whether you've, like, given them all or not, it should just automatically be like, yeah, okay, you can hand more in. I guess maybe some people wouldn't want to hand everything in. Oh, why is Tom not making me speak to him? We need to build a shop. Hello, Tom. Hello! Yes, I like my house, thank you. Oh, there's even rewards to members where homes reach high ratings. 98 though. Okay. I don't want to pay Nook Miles. Not again. I like my Nook Miles. Okay, more about your capitalistic ideas, sir. Sure. Let's talk, Timmy. Here are your cookies! Your macaroon cookie! Macaron cookie. Oh, okay, he wants me to get him materials. Okay. I did it, yeah! 30 Whew! Jesus! 30 pieces of hardwood, regular wood, and of softwood. 30 nuggets. Can I sell you my fish now? Nothing in there. Goodness, it's gonna take us a hot minute to be able to do the stuff we need to do then, huh? Alright, let's pick all this stuff up off the floor. Oh no, not bees! Ah, dang it! They got me. Catching bees is actually so hard. No. Oh, I need to dig that up. I need to get my shovel to dig that whole thing up. Oh no, not bees again. Oh my goodness. I still have to get bees! Bruh. Why do they often want to eat them? Alright, pick up the bee's nest, I guess. Oh, this isn't where I wanted to go. Oh well. I might be able to hand in that locust if I haven't already given them one. I can. Oh, no. Yeah. No worries, Betty. Sorry, I thought that I could give you the locust, but I guess I've already given you one before. So we have a shovel. And we need a vault. I don't think I need to craft anything else, but I will check. No, not at the moment. Oh, I need an axe, I think. I don't think I have one. Woo! We got our shovel, guys! Let's go! And now we can go... Woohoo! Oops. Oops. Yep. Oh my goodness, I don't want to put one there. I'm gonna fill the holes back in. Ready? Woohoo! I think you need a ladder to get up there, but that's okay. Whee! Woohoo! Look how much stuff there is, guys. Ooh! This is where you get fossils. Oh, is there another one? Yeah. Woo! Look at all this island space we have now. There's another one! Heaps of fossils. Oh, I skipped that. Oops. Oh, a fishing bait. Oh. So you got all this stuff that you can pick up off the sides as well. And then you got a little jetty you can fish off of. Lots of shells. Oops. Oh! And then there's this over here, and what you do with this one is you dig it up. This one. You dig it, you get the bells. Oops, I've run out of space. do you do it? Oh no, shoot. Oh well. You meant to like re-dig. You meant to re-put bells in there, but I don't know how to do it. I've forgotten. Oh. You only get one of those a day too. That's really sad. Oh, I've got more nook miles. My goodness. Okay. Surely that's it. Yeah. I mean, he's gonna make our own little DIY bench now. Oh, we have these fossils in first. A Diplotail. I'm donating it. Take it. I'm a bit busy right now. Please don't tell me anything. Need 4 donations. Oh, I need to assess the fossils first, right? Well, they are all different. Nice. No, I don't need you to tell me information about it. Thank you. I do. I have this torso. I don't need facts, thank you. Okay, I've got one more. I have a something or other skull. I need one more donation, guys. I don't even know what else I'll be able to find, but one donation. Oof. All right, let's go find something. Baby. I need to put this wood up. I'm gonna go sell the extra bug and stuff that I have. That one. Sold. No worries, buddy. And we need to make our own DIY bench. So I don't have to keep coming into Tom Nook's capitalistic shop. Woo! Yeah, bye Tom Nook. I'm not gonna have to come to your shop anymore unless I'm selling things. We'll take a seat. Oh, we'll carry the castle. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. I want to put it out here. Where is it? There. Woohoo! We're separating ourselves from Tom Nook slowly. Oh. Oh, maybe that fish might be something we can catch. I don't think that's gonna do it, is it? No, up a bit more. Again, I say this is one of the worst parts about Animal Crossing. I really hope they've improved the fishing in the new update, or in the new game, because it's not very good. Sea bass, I already got one of those. It's tragic. Oh, real life is tragic. There's no way to like aim really where you go, and you have to just kind of guess if you've got it in the right place. No. Oh, that one surely. It's gonna go close enough. Yes. Ah! I didn't mean to click it. It's a snail. Yes! Snails! Not so much brag about, but that means that I will get my last donation I need because he will take a snail. Yes, he will. Hello, sir. Mr. Blathers. I do have a donation, sir. He doesn't like snails either. Yes! We have the right number of specimens! He's gonna apply to get an actual museum. I don't know how long it takes to get the application, but new museum is on its way already. We're so good. Look at us go. We have all this hardwood and stuff because we need it for the shop. But actually, how come we've only got 10, 10, and 14? I feel like we've got so much more. Around a big jet plane. nail. Getting the nuggets is where it's gonna be hard because I don't feel like we have enough rocks. Oh, and yeah, it's already done. I think I have to try and claim the Nook Miles like straight away because it changes to other things. The little normal Nook Miles are okay, but the Nook Mile Plus, when you accept, like, when you say yeah, I've done it, it changes to something else. So to get the max amount of miles, you need to accept, like, say that you've done it as soon as possible. Okay, I've almost got enough normal wood. Oh, and softwood. Oh. Okay, I can't get any more of the yellow wood. Okay. At least I kind of know which ones I'm done with. Okay, done with that one as well. Okay, so just the dark wood now. The chocolate! Absolutely love her when she's smart. Oh, there goes Max. I'll make another one. Whee! Oops, I did not mean to pick it up. Put it down! Yes, let's craft something. This is the story of a girl around the whole world. Fighting for my crown. Absolutely love her when she smiles. When she smiles. Oh, there we go. Alright, we've got all the wood. We've only got 4 nuggets, though. My buckets are full. Around the whole world. Oh, grow fruit trees. Oh. I don't know how you grow a fruit tree. Do you stick it in the ground? Plant. There you go, I planted a fruit tree. I don't think you can necessarily chop down trees at the moment. I think you need a better axe to do that. I might need to go to an island to get more nuggets. To empty my inventory and we'll go see if we can see it. Go to an island. Might be able to. We should be able to, I should say. Sit next to me. Put in storage. Put in storage. Just sell the snail. We'll put the wood away as well at the moment. I will grab the sticks and stones. Because sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. No man. Sing us songs. And the medicine, because we need to take some medicine. My eye's a bit broken. You updated it. Updated. What did you update? I don't remember. I'm trying to remember. I'm terrible with remembering things. Definitely send me a DM on Discord. I'm terrible. Honestly. Can someone, like, change my brain for me? I've got to work out how to add stream games? Hello, Mr. Dodo. You're gonna have to DM me, Law. I don't remember. Oh, I got your message. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I got you. I got you. I got you. Let me log into mine and I'll show you. I can show you how to do it because I've done that before. Yeah, I don't mind. I just did mine. When I did mine, I did it as like a custom. Ooh, I love that Halloween bundle. That looks so cute. I like the cute. Let me add. I don't know if I have one on mine at the moment. I don't think I do. Oh, I never extended my jar. Yeah, I do cash gift for those. And so then it pays it out to your bank account, and then you buy the item. That's how I do it. Yeah, because I don't have Steam in their gift cards even. There is some CD keys on here. I don't know if the one you would want it would be, but there is some. Just saying. Yeah, no, I just do it this way. Then you just have to set up your, I think it's Stripe they use for it. Saying, just saying. That's what you should do. Well, tell Paris later. She should add a Animal Crossing on her throne. Excuse me, sorry. I have a coffee and I'm still tired. Send help. What are you gonna play today, Lo? Just saying. You just leave me. It really makes me sick. Just saying. Just saying. Oh, fancy! Woo! I gotta play it a little bit as well. I'm just playing some Animal Crossing first. I have some dungeons and quests and stuff I want to do. I wanna fly! I want to use my Nook Miles ticket, please. Time for takeoff! Saving! Do not touch the buttons! Never touch buttons, guys, when you are flying. What would dodos do? You get over it, just saying, just saying. Alright, we are 2 down in Dr. Target Island. Delta Osco is go. Woo. Oh. Okay, so I can use my miles to get another tool if one breaks. Alright, oh, and there's a crafting table as well. Oh my gosh! Hello? 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 Oh, I wish I could invite... I can't invite anybody yet, but I wish I could. How cute is he? So unfortunate I can't, invite any guests to my island yet, because I love that dragon. Rago. I want him. I don't need the fruit, because we already have that fruit at home. Alright, let's get to getting some... Oh. Oh, gold ore. Oh. All kinds of things from this place. I don't even know what that is. What is that? Clay. will make me feel like royalty. My royalty, guys, I think so. Oh, there's a fossils thing. Oops. Oops. Not my island. I don't care about fixing it. Can I take the flowers? I kind of want to take the flowers. Can I? Oh my gosh, I can. Give me one of each of the flowers. And the yellow one as well. This isn't my island, so I don't care about leaving holes in it, okay? Don't judge me. Oh! I guess my shovel. Make another shovel. There's the crafting thing. There it is. Excuse me, I want to use you. Why is it not craftable? Oh, we need hardwood. Oh no. Okay. Guess we're gonna get some hardwood. I didn't know you needed hardwood for that. Oh no, not bees! Oh. I'm terrible with bees. I don't remember how I used to catch them. I know I used to, but I don't remember how. Oh, don't tell me I'm not going to be able to catch any hardwood on this map. Oh, there's one. Some more. Don't care about the fruit. Give me a shovel. Oops, I don't want to keep crafting. Alright. More shovel time! How many nuggets do I have? Oh, I still need 13 more nuggets. I'm not even going to get all those from this island. You actually need so many nuggets for the fact that you're just starting out. Get the store. Oops. Hey Dodo dude. Wait, go home. I got myself some flowers. Got myself some nuggets. I need to get more nuggets, but that's alright. Oh. They're the same dodo bird, just different. You reckon the dodo birds are cloned? Maybe they're all clones of each other, you know? That's what makes me good, though. Alright, I'm gonna do 10 more minutes on this, and then we're gonna go play some Final Fantasy. I have an appointment at 1 o'clock today, so I will not be able to play as long as I normally would be able to. Yeah, look, I've only got 17 of those. I've got so much wood. Oh, I need to also, because I've just worked out that you can plant the fruit trees. I need to plant some pears and the coconuts. Right, there's one coconut tree. I'm going to put one on this side as well. And then we're going to put some fruit trees. We're going to do 2 pear trees. And we're going to put some flowers as well. What we found. Look at that, how beautiful they are. Oh. Oops, no, I don't want to. Oops. Oops. I'm so good with my keys. And then I'm gonna put one here as well. Oops. So that's already red ones there anyway, so. Beautiful, look at that! How gorgeous is that, guys? What have I got? Roots. Oh yes, because I'm planting trees. Oh, because I'm growing different coconut trees, I see. Different trees in general, sorry. I get you. I've got so many nook miles, that's awesome. Oops. Don't put a hole in the ground anywhere, Kai. I just have holes everywhere. Oops, I know I don't know. Yeah. I've got it, I know. I'm waiting to get, enough iron ore nuggets. Alright, buddy. Wonderful. 650 belt, is that it? I get more from giving you my weeds, dude. Read it on a magazine. Oh. Benny and the Jets. Benny and the Jets. Yes, I have a fossil for you to look at. This one. Well, I can't give you any more right now. Oh, man. I can't give him any more stuff right now until the museum opens. That means I'm gonna have more stuff lying around my yard. My yard looked like a bloomin' aquarium before because I didn't have anywhere, like I couldn't take anything to him because he wasn't here yet. And now he won't accept nothing else because he's waiting for his museum to be built. Bloody Tom Nook and his ridiculous shenanigans. Oh, I can't put it there? Okay, where are we putting it? Just here? Oh my god, look at it! This is what my yard's gonna look like, guys. I'm gonna have a bunch of bloody fossils around. The museum's not built. Ridiculous. Bloody Tom Nook and his capitalism. Making life difficult. Jeez. I keep scaring those things away. Like a Benny and the Jets. Oh my goodness, I can't. There we go. Oh, that's a beautiful fish. A red snapper looks pretty dapper. Silly. And I have all these weeds that need picking. It's like a weed simulator, honestly. Sometimes. And do you reckon I get Nook Miles for picking my weeds? Prob's not. I don't think I was able to unlock a ladder. I didn't see it in the recipes. What is that? Oh my goodness. That's quite something, that is. Yeah, no ladder. I can't even climb up the top where there's probably more places to get nuggets from. I don't know how I jumped over there, but I'll take it. How do I even do that? Yeah, I don't even know how I did that. There's also gifts in the sky, but I can't get them. I don't have a slingshot. So innocent. So dead. And now it's over. Whee! Oh! No! Thank you so much for resubscribing, honey. You threw a Pokeball at me. Oh, there's those bug things again. I need to get them. How do I need to slowly. Slowly. Yes! Woohoo! Oh, you captured a red jam drop cookie. Woohoo! The backyard. Okay. I'm gonna grab my Nook Miles and then I'm gonna save and we'll change games. So I don't think there's much more I can do today. I think I've just gotta wait to have more rocks to get iron from. I do kind of want to do it though because if I do that, then And the shop will build while I'm away. Oh, hello, Tammy. I am. What's she giving me? Pretty good tools recipes. What recipe did she give me? I wish I was DIY recipes. Did she give it to me? I'm so confused. No, she just said I know how to make that shovel. Oh, there. Oh, she gave me a better shovel. Oh, look at it. It's so pretty. I don't want to use it now. I don't want it to break. Tried to get you, but you're so hot that I melted. I right through the cracks. Maybe I can buy a Nook Miles ticket. Quickly pop to another island, and I should hopefully get enough iron ore. Why does it cost me 80 miles just to access this every day? Lame. Oh my god, my heart. My heart. 2,000 Nook Miles for one ticket. Oh, mans. You're joking me. Lizzie, thank you so much for liking the live. How are you doing? Oh my goodness. Tom is actually such a capitalist. I don't even want to raise money or iron for his store now, to be honest. Alright, we're going to quickly go to an island, hopefully get enough iron. So then we can at least have the store built while we're gone. No way. Hopefully Final Fantasy is not too busy today when we hop on. I want to fly, thank you. I do have a Nook Miles ticket. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I've got a really fancy shovel my friend gave me. Don't touch the power button, guys. Okay, bye-bye, Dodo Bird. I've got all the wood, I just need, more iron. Thanks, Wilbur. Thanks, buddy. Oh, what a fancy tree that one is. I need some rocks. Is there any? Oh, there is. I missed it completely the first time. Oh. Okay, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've already got 17 at home. We need 8 more. That's 6, 7, 8. I need 5 more. Oh, there's a fossil as well. Oops. Oh my god, I just want to dig up the fossil. Please, let me dig the fossil up. Thank you. Guys, wish me luck. I think this is the last rock on the island. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we only got 3 from that. Who the hell are you? Jakey? So cute. Oh, there's another rock in the middle. Yes. If I don't, you know, make a hole would help, but... The clay. I have the perfect amount of iron nuggets. Let's go! Woohoo! That makes me so happy. Whee! That was the whole reason I came here. I'm not interested in anything else. Take me home, Wilbur. And I can see right. Alright, let's go hand in this stuff for their store. And then we'll be able to play some Final Fantasy. In-law's gonna play too. It's alright. At the same time. Let's go! Stuff you, Tom Nook, in your absolutely terrible capitalistic way of running things. Whee! Hi, Timmy. Why is Tommy never in here, by the way? Why is it always Timmy? Why is Timmy the only one working hard? I did. They're for you. It's depressing and sad, but they are all for you. A study chair, a stadio maker, a modern tea room wall. Oh, thank you. Let's get something for my time. Oh, I get to pick the new location for the store. Oh. Ooh, okay. I'm scared if I don't pick the right place. I want it kind of near where the entrance is. So we've got our houses on this side. Maybe we can put it like on this side. Let me imagine it. Yeah, because then we're going to have a little pathway in between the houses and the store, and then a pathway to each area. Let's do it. Let's do it, guys! Woohoo! This is where the shop's gonna go. Woohoo! I'm so excited! Because, yeah, we can have a little pathway that goes to the houses and a pathway that goes this way. It's gonna look so good. Oh my goodness. Ah! Alright, let's save this, guys. Yes, I am ready to save and end. Thank you. Saving, don't touch. I won't touch, I promise. Save complete. Thank you. Bye-bye. Find myself again. Same as a cousin. Alright, we'll get these put back on the main switch. So it can charge up. Alright. I'm just going to change the game. I think Law's going to come play, so as well. So, I'm just going to put at Law because I think she's going to come play. Oh, I don't have to change it later. I'm also going. I joined my Discord, Law, so that you can join when you are ready. Sorry, I know I sound super cray with my singing. I'm listening to music, but I can't put it on stream because TikTok doesn't like background music. They don't like it. Here we go. And then make sure on TikTok you guys can see it as well. Here. Good, 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 good. I don't think it ever updates the TikTok like game though. I don't know how to if I can do it on my phone or not. This is my most recent little minion I got last night, by the way, guys. His name is Cactual Cutting. Well, cute. He's a little cactus. I work out how I can get to my own live. There we go. I am at my own live. I have to restart it maybe because I don't know how to. I'm just gonna restart it, I think, because I don't know how to fix that. My goodness, it's still saying I'm live. Takes a hot minute to turn it off, doesn't it? Is it gonna end the live or? There we go, finally. Don't let me drown. Okay. Ooh, my daily quote thingy says that it's... I want to reset them, I think. I don't know how to really do anything with the question of the day thing, to be honest. Question of the day box. Yeah. Woo! Oh my goodness! Oh! I got scared! Oh my goodness, my heart!
Taste the rainbow. Taste the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
I got so scared!
Taste the rainbow.
Oh my goodness, my raid thing always scares me. Thank you so much for the raid! Welcome in! Not scary, it scared me! I was busy trying to fix my question of the day bot. I almost raided somebody else accidentally. In my Discord. How are you doing? Thank you so much for the raid! Oh, automatically does it for me. Oh, thank goodness. Nice. Thank you so much, Raid. How was your stream? What were you playing? So, yeah. Ooh, Hearthstone. I've never played Hearthstone myself. Is it good? Yeah, it always scares me, but that's okay. Welcome in! I'm gonna try and pronounce names, but I'm terrible with names. Just pre-warning. Achiro? Hearthstone Battlegrounds for a bit, got too sleepy. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, to be fair, you were alive last night and then I'm now going for a quick nap. That is fair. Absolutely. Go and get some sleep. Absolutely. Look after yourselves. And yeah, I will look after your community. Don't worry. I will absolutely do that. I'm just trying to fix my question of the day bot in my Discord because it's broken. My name is ZiCookiie, for those of you who do not know me. I am a variety streamer that likes to help other streamers with streaming stuff. I post lots of streaming tip content over on TikTok and YouTube. And I stream games here and chat and just have a nice time. I play all kinds of games. We play Overwatch. We've just recently started Animal Crossing. New Horizons, we play Final Fantasy, we play heaps of different games. So honestly, whatever your vibe, we probably play something. And my stream schedule can vary. I do try to stream at least Mondays and Fridays. Usually at night for me, because I'm Australian. But at the moment I've been having to do day streams because I am a single mum of 2 and my bubbies do not want to sleep at the moment. So that is why I'm live now when I usually would not be. But yeah, welcome in everybody. I'm also just going to do my little welcome spiely thing as well, so you guys can see that. But yeah, welcome in. I hope you guys enjoy hanging out here. We're just playing some Final Fantasy at the moment. I've just changed over from Animal Crossing, and my Discord's decided to tell me that my question of the day bot's going to run out of cards, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if there's like it says reset them, but I don't know. I don't know what that means. Oh yeah, deck maybe, something to do with deck reset. Deck shuffle. And then maybe deck reset. Yes. And then deck reset. Sounds about right. Yes. I think I did it. All 200 cards in this deck were marked as unposted. I want to add extras at some point because obviously people are going to already know, already have seen them before. But I will add them another time. I will work out how to add more cards later on. I love that the question of the day today is, you have 5 minutes, what's the best drawing you can make? Stick figure people, because that's what I do for every charity stream I ever do. Stick figure people. Oh, sorry, I'm bad at speaking. Don't mind me. Alright, I have so many quests I need to do. I have filled my quest allowance, and I actually need to finish some. So while we're waiting for Law, I was gonna ask Laura if she wanted to help me with some dungeons. I'm gonna do some quests while I wait. 28 out of 30 is cutting it close. Last night I had 30 out of 30. So I'm just a rebel. Okay, I'm just a rebel. Oh, Law's in chat. In the chat. Hello. I was just talking about you.
I know, I heard.
I was saying I've got 28 out of 30 quests.
Yeah, I'm ocean fishing.
Ooh.
That's when I logged on.
You liked it last night?
It had just, yeah, well, and the recruitment when I just logged on.
Oh, was just going?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Perfecto timing.
Definitely.
Is there any more in this area that I need to do?
Not being fair.
Not being fair?
It's not being fair. It's not letting me finish my quest. I've got 4 out of 13. I've got 6 minutes left.
Oof. That's definitely cutting it close.
Yeah.
Have I started? I have.
Complete.
I've done. What am I up to, Law? Shadowbringers, I think.
Shadowbringers?
Yeah. Yep. I am.
Yeah, I think you said so.
Yeah, I've gotten about 6 quests. So I've done Heaven's Ward, Dragon Song, Stormblood, and have just started Shadowbringers. Yes. English.
Oh yeah, we need to get you those mounts.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I was gonna get you to help me with some dungeons when you finish doing
5
what
minutes.
you're doing. No rush.
I'm getting my fisherman to level 100. Nah, I won't. Probably this one. Next one, definitely.
Or I'll send you a thing so we can have chat shared.
Sure.
Make life a bit easier. Copy.
So 5 out of 13 now.
You reckon you're gonna get it?
No.
No. I did send an invite, but I don't know how that works. I'll also send you the link because I have no idea if it will pop up like it did for Paris yesterday.
Okay.
Oh, it did. There you go. Now we know how to do that.
Good. Think. I'll figure it out in a second. I'm sorry, I'm fishing.
No, no, it's okay. Finish your fishing. Absolutely finish your fishing. Yeah, well, we were trying to get, which mounts were they? Oops, I've just gone into loading screen.
Stormblood. Containment Bay.
Yeah, the containment bay ones.
And even then, I can always just do it through Twitch because I have your Twitch up.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we got the warring Lana yesterday.
We did.
And then what knew the next one? Now that I have the containment base to do them. Hello! RJ, how you doing? Whee! Apparently I need to plant jamming devices.
If I remember rightly, you're back on Aurozia too.
Yes, RJ is. I was saying the other day. But on NA, I think. If I remember rightly. Oops, I don't want to link things syncy. Ah. Working hard for a living.
Oh, by the way, Spark and I found a use for the Fall Guys jacket.
Oh?
Clothing. We're gonna use it as our fisherman gear. As our fisherman cosplay.
Oh, that's funny. I love it. I don't even know why I'm attacking these guys. They just have things over their heads, so... I'm assuming I need to.
6 out of 13. Can we at least get halfway so I feel like we've achieved something? Yes, we can. Cool.
Good job. Oops. Oh, didn't mean to press whatever the heck I just pressed.
I'm 10 million away from hitting 100 with my fisherman.
Only 10 million.
Well, I'm almost getting 1 million every time I catch a fish.
Damn. Made that one sleepies.
Oh. Fishing over.
What's this? Sacking the foe. Obtain... Oh, I think that's what I gotta find now. Axe. Whee! Well, here's one. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have mounts that I could ride everywhere, to be honest. I'm too lazy to walk everywhere. I barely even walk down the, like, to the next area. Most of the time I just TP.
Start from the top. Cool.
Where's the last sack? Or did I get them all? Oh, it says one more. Okay, I found it.
Okay, 2 hours. I'm out, by the way.
Oh, where are you going?
Out to the fishing.
Oh. Yes, yes, every 2 hours. Looks like every 2 hours on the
Every 2
dot.
hours.
I'm setting myself an alarm every 2 hours.
Someone gave me a website yesterday that keeps track. But there's a lot of people on right now.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, I guess. It was quite late last night when we did it. So, it makes sense for there not to be as many people last night.
I'm just gonna desynth all these fish if I can.
Whee! My favorite mounts are the horse mounts. They're just so pretty.
Hmm.
Whee! Yep. Yes. Yeah, so I think that's my main quest. That's not what I wanted. Last pillar to fall. Yeah, containment bay Z1T9.
Okay, give me 1 sec.
One that we got. Oh, that I got. No stress. I'll just run around and do the quests around here.
Oh no.
Oh no, what did you do?
Are you? Nothing.
Oh, you said oh no. I thought it did something.
I did not. Said Z?
Yeah, Z
Yeah.
T9.
Wait.
I think I might
did I
need
not
to
press?
do normal and then extreme. I think. I've unlocked extreme, but I don't know if
No, I just forgot to actually put the press the join button.
I mean, who needs to join anyway, right?
Yeah, only us we need to go in. I remember there's 4 mechanics of this fight.
Oh, probably is. The 4 mechanics, the other one, I'm sure there is on this one.
Probably.
We're only gonna die 6 times. It's okay.
Or 7.
Yeah, either 6 or 7. Give me carbuncle out.
Ready?
Yep. Oh.
Oh, crap.
Oh, okay, it shoots up the ground, does it? Oh, and gets rid of some of the ground. Okay.
Nope, I'm fine whoever I am.
Yeah, definitely is floor mechanics.
Hey!
Oh!
Get back here!
Oh! Oh, he can fly.
Good and evil, the war
He's not flying for long. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, sir. Oh, that was so fast. 1:15 it took us.
Yeah.
Sarah. Alright, I have to go hand that quest in, and then I can grab the extreme, I think.
Okay. I'll go back to desyncing fish. What? I need them out of my inventory.
True. No space in the retainer that is ZiCookiie.
Oh, no. No, there is. I just can't be bothered putting them in there.
Fair.
Because it doesn't look like they sell.
Yeah, I had some stuff in my thing, but I don't think any of it sold.
And you can also get your bait back by doing this too.
Oh.
I think. I could be wrong.
I mean, you might be able to, because obviously
Oh, I did.
use fish as bait.
Yeah, I got 3. Got 3 plunk worms from that one. You're a ghost.
I'm a ghost. Oh, sounds about right.
Yeah.
I'll
See
treat
you later.
Dragon too. Bye, RJ.
I got some inventory back
Well, that's good.
on the fish.
Hi, Tata.
Only for it to go away in 2 hours.
Yep. Hello, friendo. Yes, I defeated them totally all on my own. I'm amazing. 5,000 gil. Thank you. Ugh, I hate going to this flagship place. It's my second least favorite area so far. First least favorite is Thanalan in general and Ulda.
Oh, I'm not going to run out of water crystals for a while.
Well, that's good. The one I always run out of is wind crystals. And I'm like,
Yeah, lightning's mine.
because when I was doing some crafting the other day for like gear, it was using like 15 wind crystals each time.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? In what world? So all both my retainers have been sent to get wind crystals, seeing as I keep eating so much of them. Oops.
Also, have my Livia allowances recovered yet? Option 1. No, I'm at 18.
Is it down here? I never know where to go over here. Yeah, okay, yeah. I missed a verification node. Thank you for the Help Me Brick. How you doing? Oops, I was meant to hand that over.
Oh, did they go live yet?
Who?
Those that you showed me yesterday.
Oh yes, yeah. Sorry, I was like, yeah, no, I have a redeem.
What's it called?
I think it's change outfit. I made it 400.
Got it. Hehe.
Good just at work. How's games? It's good. Games are good. Alright. Avatar. Law outfit. It's named Law outfit. We're just doing some dungeons on Final Fantasy. Well, I'm talking to a robot.
I'm breaking down fish.
Oh?
Oh. Mainly because it either gives you bait or it gives you fine sand.
Mm.
Oh, that one gave me a lot of bait. Oh, and it gives water crystals.
Almost time. Oh, it does automatically. I forgot. Whoops. Never mind. I'm really good at my job. Can't work out if I need to go talk to the people at Mordona again.
Yep.
I came back and I gave the computer the piece of thing and it gave me the extreme version. So I think...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I will sign us up after I break this fish down.
No stress.
The other one's gonna be fun.
Ooh. Hello, sir, again. I'll see how many times you have to do this to get the mount, hey?
Yep.
Last mount, we had to do it like 6 times to get the mount. Alright, I am ready when you are. Oh. Stop trying to cut me with your big sword, sir. I didn't say you could do that. Ooh. I love how you're such high level lore that, like, the big circles literally do nothing to you.
Yep.
You just stand in them like, yeah, so what?
Yep.
good and evil, the war eternal.
Nice. Oh, hello, sir. You're beautiful. Yes, beautiful redness.
Did you get it?
No. Weapon coffer and something else. Nah, still. Oh, I might have
I love this.
got some on that Wondrous Trails thing, maybe. No.
You did.
Oh, did I?
Well, I did at least, so you might have.
I got some at second chance
Yeah, go
points.
have a look at your book. Oh, so you didn't actually get a little...
No, I don't think so.
You should check anyhow.
None of them have ticks on them. I don't...
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Oh well.
That's alright.
That's sad.
No stress. We'll run it back! Run it back, as they say. Here we go again, mama. Oh, roar. Angie boy. Oh. Get out the circle. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Hey, buddy, Bill.
Good and evil, the war eternal.
Yes, such a big war, so scary. Ah. At least there's not that many floor mechanics this time, Law. You can't fall off the edge.
Yeah, especially when he doesn't even drop the one that I'm standing on.
Yeah. Nope.
Okay. He just wants to keep getting beaten up.
I forgot how much of like a stuff around trying to get mounts can be. Honestly, I don't know how we did it when all four of us were trying to get like the same mount.
We had two people who were extremely lucky.
True. Could you imagine though, like, we probably did the same thing like 20 times for us all to get it.
Oh yeah. But we had fun, and that was the important thing.
Exactly, it's always fun. We just gotta knock Laura off the edge a couple of times. Oh. Bye, sir.
Good and evil, the war eternal. I am beyond your petty morality. Such is my fate.
Just die already.
Yeah, please. Nope.
Doesn't like us, does it?
No. Now I got a orchestration roll instead this time. Skip cutscene, thank you. I just don't think I'm a very lucky person, honestly, Law. I feel like we're getting faster and faster each time, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good and evil, the war eternal. I am beyond your petty morality. If such is my fate.
You got defeated!
You could get defeated.
The sigh of disappointment, Law.
Well, if he was kind, he would give us the mount.
Exactly. Now he deserves to die again. Down you fall, sir. Or whatever you are, I don't even know where you are, to be honest.
Good and evil, the war eternal.
Oh, he's not dead yet. Sad.
Now he is. Oh, that's still not it.
Yep.
Oh.
Your inventory must be atrocious right now, sir.
Well, I can't get any more coffers. I can only have the one coffer, so at least as long as I don't open it. I did get a card last time though. Claim that. A triple triad card.
Mm.
Let it pass you by. I love how much, like, health you have, by the way, Law. 322,509.
Yep.
It's a lot of health.
Hi there.
Do you reckon they're gonna up how much, like, level you can get when they bring out another...
Yes.
Yeah? Because I know, like, each other one it's
They
gone
always
up.
will.
Yeah. Man, your health's gonna be crazy.
By the way, I don't actually have any gear.
Yeah,
highest
no,
level
because
gear.
you haven't finished Endwalker, have you? Or have you finished Endwalker but not Dawn Trail?
No, I finished Down Trail.
Oh.
I just haven't got the gear.
You just haven't, yeah.
For level 100 yet.
Yeah. Crazy.
And I haven't materia meld anything as well.
Yeah, I want to do it, but then I'm like, oh, but what, I'm going to get something else better later, so there's probably no point me melding it now.
I'm done opening them.
No mount. We got fists, but no mount. Oh goodness. Where's the
one good thing.
mount loot, like extra luck thing?
There is one good thing.
Yeah.
This trial is on my book.
Oh, it is?
And I have a full 9 second gen,
Nice. My goodness, the novice chat's going crazy again today.
Hmm?
The novice chat, people just like talk constantly in it.
Ah.
Oh, down we go again.
Good and evil, the war eternal.
Oh, that's a new one. I wonder how it would play if I changed my summoner.
Oh, nope, armory
Did you get
chest. Nope. Something got placed in my armory chest. I don't even know what it is. What is it? A dark knight's arm.
Okay. Let's keep going. By the way, I'm trying something a bit crazy, so you may die.
Alright. I'm
And
down.
you may not succeed.
That's right, I'm down. Two summoners, let's go! We got this! I mean, I wasn't really taking that much damage, even like aside from your like heals and stuff, so might be okay.
I can still heal. I just might be quicker now. Wait. Oh no. You were just moving out of the way.
Yeah, I was just moving. I don't want to risk the circles.
Did you see how quick
I was so much quicker.
Good and evil, war eternal.
Maybe the game will reward us for you being risky. Keep getting
I
these
doubt it, but-
totems as well. I don't know. I get them. Yes, it did. A dominant. Yay! Demonic Lana whistle. It worked.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Woohoo! Oh, it's so pretty. Oh, it's such a pretty bird. Oh, you're so pretty.
It is.
Whee!
Okay, now for the next one.
Yes, I think I have the quest to it.
Said you got it yesterday.
Yeah, I did.
Now this one could be interesting.
Is it this one?
Yeah, it's this one.
Okay.
This is the one, still one you need.
Okay.
It's called the, we're gonna fall off 1,000 times because the mechanics in this one suck. Remember?
Oh,
Wait, you can fall off on the very first one. So this is, yeah, like I said, gonna be fun.
What did we do? We didn't do the extreme of this one?
No.
Ah, okay. I was like, we did this one, didn't we? Aye. Oh.
The problem is, falling is going to be an issue.
Yeah. Especially for you.
Yeah. I just...
Come forth, scales of revelation.
What?
I
I
would know
don't...
the weight of your
Whoa!
Nope,
No!
other way. Okay. I think there's a green light, and you've got to run away from the light. Okay. We can do this.
We can do this. Alright. Let's get him! Yes, I'm unenlightened. You are right. Please enlighten me.
Come forth, scales of revelation. I would know the weight of your soul.
Oh! No!
Dope. I'll get you until it pushes me back the other way.
I was almost far enough across. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be spawned right in front of her face. Hello, lady. Oh, Jesus. Put that right on top of me. That's not very nice.
Uh-oh. I don't know what way.
Oh! Oh!
Oh my. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. I wonder if I should have just used my summoner just to try to get her down before she decides to be a pain.
The unenlightened come.
Floor mechanics be like.
Where one doth not suffice.
Don't worry, at least now you know it's not just you that can't do floor mechanics, Law.
I always can't do floor mechanics though.
Hear the echoes of truth.
I don't care, I'm doing as much damage as I can while the space is happening because
No, that's fair.
My word.
done. I almost had her completely, by the way.
Come forth, scales of revelation.
Okay.
Oh, right, which side came first?
Oh no! No!
You fell off too?
Yes!
Hey. I didn't see which side the light came from. They both seem to appear at the same time.
Yeah.
We should do this phase again.
Hear the echoes of truth.
Where's my short
Hear
cast?
the echoes of truth. Spread the glory of my word. Come forth, scales of revelation.
Just gonna risk it that's on this side first. Okay. That was a good risk.
It usually always is.
Whee!
Can you bring equilibrium where one doth not suffice?
Good, if you do this phase, you can't do the other one. And I will just focus on hitting you.
Hear the echoes of truth. Hear the echoes of truth.
Woo!
Please. Please. Don't make us do that again. It's going to, isn't it? It is, isn't it?
Maybe.
Did you get the whistle?
No.
Oh, I was actually going to try taking my... Oh, next one, if we have to go again, I'll try putting my summoner in and see if we can do it.
Okay.
I'm just going to say from the get-go, over here.
Enlightened come.
Yeah, it's always on that side, so we may as well just see us stand on this side. Knowing our luck, it's gonna change for some stupid reason.
Yep, and also we didn't get that other phase, which is not great.
Come forth, scales of revelation.
Let's be on this side. Else I'm gonna cry.
I would know
Thank
the
goodness.
weight of your souls.
Oh, I see. It's her.
Her?
She, the glowy, scales.
Can you bring
Oh.
equilibrium where one doth not suffice?
Because if I'm looking at that, I don't really.
Hear the echoes of truth.
Uh-oh. Hopefully we're not the wrong way.
Hear the echoes of truth.
Oh wait, no, she's still in his face. He's casting something. Let's kill him. Go away.
I hate Sophia.
Ah, humbug.
No. Alright, I can do it one more time, but then I'm gonna go. Ooh, I have an appointment at 1 o'clock. But no, I didn't get it.
I know, I opened this box. Yep.
For moi.
Okay, I may not be able to keep you alive.
Alright. That's alright. If we can kill her before she kills us, that's good.
The unenlightened come.
Oh, we got her back there pretty quickly, which is good.
Not really.
That's not good.
No, that is not good.
Oh, I thought that was the point. We're meant to do it faster.
Well, yeah, faster, but I didn't want her to have. I wanted the other face.
Oh.
But see how she puts the scales here?
Oh, yeah. I see, yeah. Oh, you can see where her arm's going. I see. That makes sense.
Can you bring equilibrium?
I mean, I probably could bring equilibrium if you stop trying to murder me. Kinda hard to do anything if you're trying to kill me.
Hear the echoes of truth.
Well, you've got a dude on you. What happened to you?
She pushed me off.
Oh! Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
Oh. If you can
I did it! I did it! Woohoo!
Spread the glory of my word.
I think. Or she killed me. I can't.
No.
No, she killed me.
She killed you.
Oh. I thought I had it.
Whoa.
Okay, so we've got to be not near the edge on that side as well. Okay.
The unenlightened come.
There's more floor mechanics you didn't know about, Law.
Come forth, scales of revelation. I would know the weight of your souls.
Oh. Whee! Not off the top of my head, to be honest. I know, Paris wants to try and get the most out of her freeze trial before she pays for it.
No, that's a Discord code.
Hear the echoes of truth.
It's a Discord code.
Ah.
Hear the
Oh, no. No, it is actually Final Fantasy.
Oh god, I
Oh,
got
you-
pushed off.
Really?
Yep.
How far is that push off?
I think I was pretty close to the edge myself.
I wasn't though. I was halfway on in the middle of the platform.
Oh.
The unenlightened come.
I think we gotta try and kill her a bit faster. Somehow. I don't know how, but...
Well won doth not suffice.
Ah, I just got to the skipper.
Hear the echoes of truth. Hear the echoes of truth.
Oh Jesus, she pushed me off.
What the hell?
Spread the glory of
Why is there suddenly floor mechanics that were not there before? These floor mechanics were not here before. What is happening?
the unenlightened come.
She's punishing you, Lord, for changing.
Well won doth not suffice. Ah, hear the echoes of truth. Hear the echoes of truth.
Get out of that, get out of that. I think that's the pushback.
I don't think I was in it.
Spread the glory of my word.
So hard to focus on like all the things, hey? I'm like trying to look at what I'm...
Oh,
She's so low!
yes.
Thank the Lord.
Please. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh my gosh, thank goodness! I was like, I literally can't do anymore because I've got group at 1 o'clock. Yay! Let me use this
Oh
one.
my gosh, that was
Hectic.
she was a pain.
Pretty bad. Pretty, pretty, pretty.
There's one.
Pretty birdie. Oh my lordy lord.
That would.
Oops. Keep typing things in my chat thing.
Oh my gosh, that was painful. Okay, I will be back.
Alright. My bees! I've got to go. I've got group at 1 o'clock, so I've got to go and get changed and get ready and all that stuff. We finish at 2:30. So I might be able to come back and stream for a bit afterwards, maybe. Am I twitching? I don't know. Yeah, I might be able to come back and stream for a little bit afterwards, maybe. But for now... Hi! His caption's bad. Yeah, so I've got a group at 1 o'clock, so I'm gonna go and get changed and get ready for that. And then I might go live when I get back from group. Group's till 2:30. I don't have to pick my kids up until like 5 o'clock-ish, so I might come home and this is about the British. I will come back and stream after group. Perfect. All right, we're gonna go and read Law. Even though I'm sure Law can probably hear me. I don't know.
I can.
She can.
I haven't left yet.
As a saying, I'm gonna read you. So they can still watch Final Fantasy while I'm gone. Perfecto. Be nice to Law, or I'll eat you guys for breakfast.
I'm taking a 10-minute break after those fights.
That's
Stupid
fine.
pool mechanics.
Paris is at work anyway, and I think it's mostly just That's the thing. It's just funny reading the caption. Alright, I'll be back. I'll come back and stream after group. So I'll be back a little bit later. Bye, friendos. Bye, Law. Look after yourself.
Yep.
Alright, let's raid Law. Make sure you guys use my raid messages, even though she already knows you guys are coming anyway. Love yous, and I'll catch you guys soon.